Story within the ranks of Presbyterianism. Now, I heard this a long time ago. It was around the time when I arrived here in All Souls. And it goes as follows. A Presbyterian minister, let's make him come from Ulster. Suits the story better, as you'll see. A Presbyterian minister from Ulster was marooned on a desert island. And years later, he was rescued by a passing ship. When taking him on board, the captain of the ship noticed there were 3 small buildings and inquired from him, what were the 3 small buildings? And he answered with the following, well, that one was my house, and that one is my church. And he said, what was about the 3rd building? Oh, well, that was my former church. That gives a fair insight into the ever-continuous division within Presbyterianism. And we know here in Northern Ireland, we have the Presbyterian Church in Ireland. We have Free Presbyterians, Reformed Presbyterians, Evangelical Presbyterians, and of course us, the non-subscribing Presbyterians, which I often jokingly describe to people as the continuity Presbyterians. And our own congregation here is known as the Second Congregation, with the present church in Rosemary Street still known as First Presbyterian Church. And there was a 3rd Presbyterian church, and I believe that was the mainstream Presbyterian church who committed to the Westminster Confession. Also, we, Second Congregation, we separated from First Church because I understand the congregation had grown to a size there was a need for a second premises. I don't think there was a great fallout or anything over the coffee or the tea or anything theological, such as the coffee or the tea. I think it was because, having reached a certain number of families, there was an obligation to establish a second congregation. Now, there was another church, of course, established on York Street. And my understanding that the reason for that was they were more theologically Unitarian. And originally it was set up as a Unitarian church, but part of the non-subscribing tradition. Now, sadly, York Street was destroyed during the Blitz in the Second World War. And they had to move here after the total destruction of their building in 1941. Now, interesting, they did not merge until 2004. That was 2 years before I arrived. So that was 1941 to 2004. Well, you don't want to be hasty about anything before you merge with that lot over there. I have just come from Stirling in Scotland, where I was officiating at a funeral, and I'll say a little bit about the person later on. Whilst there, I took the opportunity to visit some churches. One with particular interest to me was Holyrood, which is within close proximity to Stirling Castle. Stirling is a fascinating city. It's like a mini Edinburgh, quite beautiful at the centre, beautiful city. And because its history is partially controlled by the bridge at Stirling over the River Forth, that whoever controlled the bridge controlled Scotland. The church, Holyrood, played a gigantic role in Scottish history. From the Battle of Stirling to the coronation of James VI of Scotland, also, of course, became James I of England. And he was the infant son of Mary, Queen of Scots. And he was actually, his coronation, as I said, took place in Holyrood. So it was the only other church outside of London where there was ever a coronation of a king. It has stunning stained glass windows, unbelievable, a couple of beautiful Art Deco windows in particular that have to be seen to believe. It is the second oldest building in Stirling after Stirling Castle, which was also an incredibly famous building and ended up at one time as the barracks of the famous Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders. But talking about divided congregations, as I mentioned earlier on, and dividing different traditions within our theological positions